From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Happy Monday and welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And yesterday was May the 4th. Be with you. I love it how May 4th and 5th together bring so much joy. On May 4th, all the geeks rejoice. On May 5th, we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And so I remember in Colorado, I grew up in Colorado. And so one of the things we used to love in Colorado is you'd always cruise Federal Boulevard in Denver, and you would get some of the best Mexican food you could ever get. Just absolutely spectacular. So for everyone celebrating Cinco de Mayo, happy Cinco de Mayo. Thank you all for tuning in this morning. Packed show, literally packed show. We have over a dozen stories to talk about this morning, so we're going to get right into it this morning. Join me for a coffee cup cheers. I've got my double espresso this morning powering me through. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Oh, that was so good. All right. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Let's get into this. All right, we're going to be off alignment here. All right. London's iconic department store Harrods is confirming it was targeted as part of a larger cyber attack spree on UK retailers, what we've seen happen to Marks and Spencer's and Co-op over the last several weeks. They recently experienced attempts to gain unauthorized access to some of their systems, according to Harrods, but they were able to actually identify the attack and stop it. Currently, all sites, including their Knightsbridge store, which is kind of their flagship store, H Beauty stores, and airport stores remain open and welcome customers. Customers can also still continue to shop via harrods.com. They're not asking customers to do anything differently at this time, but obviously this is coming as Dragon Force ransomware group said it orchestrated the attacks on Co-op, on Harrods, on Marks and Spencer. These attacks started around 2 weeks ago. They've suspended some online purchases. They're still struggling to bring some systems back online. So the group taking kind of responsibility for all of this is kind of a hacktivist style operation when they first started back in August of 2023. They've now shifted to financial gain and extortion. They've been targeting government organizations, commercial entities, law firms, and medical practices, as well as some political organizations. Sentinel-1 explains that they rely on phishing emails, the exploitation of known vulnerabilities, and even stolen credentials for initial access. The group uses various tools for reconnaissance, remote access, and lateral movements, as well as payload delivery. They use the Cobalt Strike framework. They use Mimikatz. They use an advanced IP scanner and Ping Castle. They've also been seen using the System BC backdoor. In some of their previous attacks, they've been able to take advantage of Log4j2, CVE 2024-21412, and Avanti's VPNs. So Avanti primarily being taken advantage of would point the finger at China. Rarely have we seen Russia take advantage of Avanti. China loves Avanti. So could this group be in, a name like Dragon Force? Dragon is big in Chinese mythicism and kind of so forth. So could this be kind of a Chinese criminal ransomware gang and not an Eastern European type? Maybe we're seeing it. I mean, they're targeting big retailers in the UK, and obviously this comes at the height of kind of the tariff war here and so forth. So all of this could have a bottom line there as well. Don't discount the Chinese's way of how they use cybercrime, is what I say. The Chinese Communist Party and their cyber playbook is they will do this kind of stuff in order to impact the bottom line of these companies, as well as with the tariffs and everything else going on, and that kind of makes things look worse, which forces governments to negotiate with an underhand, which is what China is essentially trying to force on everyone who's trying to renegotiate with them based on the US tariffs. A supply chain attack involving 21 backdoored Magento extension has compromised nearly 500 to 1,000 e-commerce stores, including one belonging to a $40 billion multinational. The Sensac researchers discovered the attack report that some extensions were backdoored as far back as 2019, but the malicious code was only activated in April of 2025. And again, this kind of goes down the path of what you don't see today doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So one thing I often get questioned on in the show by a lot of various practitioners is, how far back do you go? And I go as far back as my locks can keep me. but then we add the TTPs and IOCs of specific types of attacks into our SOC playbook. The reason we do that is because the moment it becomes activated, we'll be able to recognize it. A lot of times these backdoors will sit there, they won't have any activity, they become very, very hard to find. And then when they do go on, you're able to actually reference the playbook and keep that institutional knowledge in-house, because people rotate, people leave jobs, come go. Someone from 2019 is not sitting at the desk at 2025. And so that institutional knowledge institutional knowledge, could be primarily ineffective, and so you want to document it somewhere, and you kind of want to keep it top of mind. So this malware injected 6 years ago, but came to life this week as attacker took full control of some of these e-commerce websites and servers. Sense access to compromised extensions are from vendors Tigran, Metanishi, and MGS. And a lot of these are, you see, Ajax, Suites, and Cart, and so forth. And again, these are Facebook chat. And it doesn't have to be the developer, by the way. This could be that initially when they came out, there was no backdoor. They were fine. The developers got compromised. The backdoors came through, or they sold the extensions. I mean, the fact is, cyber criminals operate in the fact that they'll acquire these smaller companies or offer to do outsource development for them to reduce their cost. And then they put this stuff in there, and then no one's checking it, right? It's just inherent kind of trust, which Alan Alfred would go crazy over. If the check's successful, the backdoor would then give access to other admin functions in the file, including one that allows a remote user to upload a new license and save it. So all in all, a lot of targeting of our e-commerce. And so something to keep in mind here if you're in that part of the world. But ransomware attack on food and agricultural industry doubled so far in 2025. Jonathan Bradley, the director of cyber information sharing organization Food and Ag ISAC, spoke at RSA on Thursday, warning of not only increase in ransomware incidents, but continued lack of visibility into the full scope of the problem. A lot of it never gets reported, so a ransomware attack happens, and the ISAC never gets the full details. He said, I wish companies would be more open to talking about it and sharing. Here's what they use. Here's how we fixed it. The uptick began in the fourth quarter of last year, continues into 2025, with increases largely attributed to CLOPS exploitation of the file sharing service. The Food and AG ISAC obtained its numbers through a combination of open source sites, dark web monitoring, members' input, and information sharing between the National Council of ISAC members. The industry saw 31 attacks in January and 35 in February, before 18 only in March. The 84 attacks seen from January to March were more than double the number they saw in Q1 of last year. So more and more attack on these industries as well. Again, sorry, everything here is a bit misaligned this morning. The creators of StealC, a widely used information stealer and malware downloader, releasing a second major version that we all need to pay attention to. The second version was actually made available to cyber criminals back in March of this year. Zscaler researchers analyzed it and published a detailed write-up. So StealC is a lightweight info stealer malware gaining traction in the dark web since early 2023. They sell access for around $200 a month. Version 2 and later was announced in March, and it includes a whole set of major improvements like payload delivery enhancements with support for exe files, MSA packages, and PowerShell scripts, and configurable payload triggering. RC4 encryption was added for code strings and C2 communication with random parameters in C2 responses for better evasion. Architecture and execution improvements with new payloads compiled for 64-bit systems, resolving API functions dynamically at runtime and introducing a self-deletion routine. They've even embedded a builder that will allow operator to generate new StealC builds using templates and custom data theft tools. To add a Telegram bot support for real-time alerts to operators, and even added capability to screenshot the victim's desktop with a multi-monitor support. So you want to keep your eye on this, understand the TTPs, IOCs, how to recognize it in your environment, and block it. A 25-year-old man from California has pleaded guilty to hacking Disney systems and leaking data under the guise of a hacktivist collective. According to the DOJ, Ryan Mitchell Kramer pled guilty to accessing a computer and obtaining information, threatening to damage a protected computer, as well as 2 felony charges that each carry a prison sentence of up to 5 years. Kramer is behind the 2024 hack targeting the Walt Disney Company, where he stole 1.1 terabytes worth of data under the name of Null Bulge. He claimed to be a hacktivist group protecting artists' rights and ensuring fair compensation for their work. Sentinel-1 detailed his activities, pointing out that their actions contradicted hacktivism. They were just using that as a guise. DOJ said the hacker, while claiming to represent Null Bulge hacktivist group allegedly based in Russia, attempted to extort the Disney employee. When the employee failed to respond, Kramer leaked their personal information along with some of the stolen Disney files. Disney reportedly decided to stop using Slack for in-house communication following the data leak. This data leak did cause a lot of damage for Disney, and a lot of people lost their jobs as a result of that as well. So he's now pled guilty, and he'll be sentenced shortly. The EU privacy watchdog finding TikTok 530 million euros, the equivalent of $600 million, on Friday after a 4-year investigation. Found that the video sharing app data transfer to China put users at risk of spying in breach of strict EU data privacy rules. That 600 million doesn't even tickle TikTok. So the Irish National Watchdog serves as TikTok's lead data privacy regulator in a 27-nation EU because the company is based in Dublin. TikTok failed to verify, guarantee, and demonstrate that personal data of European users remotely accessed by staff in China was afforded a level of protection essentially equivalent to that guaranteed within the EU. TikTok said it disagreed with the decision. It plans to appeal it. You can go ahead and ban it now if you want. There's that. A 36-year-old Yemeni national who's believed to be the developer and primary operator of the Black Kingdom ransomware has been indicted in the U.S. for conducting nearly 1,500 attacks on Microsoft Exchange servers. The suspect, Rami Khalid Ahmed, is accused of deploying the Black Kingdom malware on roughly 1,500 computers in the U.S. and abroad, demanding ransom payments of $10,000 in Bitcoin. According to the indictment, from March of 21 to June of 23, Ahmed and others infected computer networks of several U.S.-based victims, including medical billing services companies in Encino, a ski resort in Oregon, a school district in Pennsylvania, and a health clinic in Wisconsin. The DOJ highlights that Ahmed designed Black Kingdom ransomware to exploit a vulnerability in exchange for initial access to target computers. This was obviously first reported by Marcus Hutchins, who discovered the web shell deployed by Black Kingdom ransomware operators on Exchange servers vulnerable to the proxy logon. So now they've identified who this person is. He faces up to 15 years in jail. He is residing in Yemen. I hear we're bombing there. There might be a cheaper way to bring him to justice with a drone missile. Just saying. There's that as well. Artem Stryzak, a Ukrainian national, has been extradited from Spain to the U.S. to face charges related to a global ransomware operation that used the notorious Nephilim ransomware strain. The 2025 extradition is an important step in a years-long investigation in a cyber extortion campaign that targeted a bunch of different organizations. On April 30th, Stryzak was brought to the U.S. after his arrest in Spain in June of 2024. Federal prosecutors in Brooklyn unsealed a superseding indictment earlier today, charging him with conspiracy to commit fraud and related computer crimes, including extortion. His arraignment is scheduled before U.S. Magistrate Judge Robert Levy in the Eastern District of New York. So he's coming to justice as well. The U.S. government announcing it reached a settlement with Raytheon, RTX Corporation, and Nightwing Group in a lawsuit over the company's alleged failures to meet cybersecurity requirements for defense contractors. All in all, according to the settlement, between 2015 and 2021, Raytheon did not implement necessary cybersecurity controls on a system used to perform work on DoD contracts. In 2015, the company landed a DHS cybersecurity contract worth nearly $1 billion. Raytheon and RCSI allegedly not only failed to implement a security plan for the internal development system, but also failed to ensure it complied with other DFARS and FAR requirements. The settlement resolves allegations that Raytheon used its non-compliant internal system to develop, use, or store covered defense information and federal contract information during its performance on 29 different contracts and subcontracts. According to the settlement, the company submitted false claims for unclassified work performed on the non-compliant system under the DoD contract. Raytheon did not admit fault, but agreed to pay $8.4 million to the U.S. government to settle the claims. Of the total amount, $4.2 million represent restitution. The rest represents interest. So there's that there. So for a lot of people talking about cuts to CISA and so forth, Amazon, CrowdStrike, Google, and Palo Alto all say there's been no change into interactions with the federal government since the inauguration of President Trump this year. Across multiple interviews and media briefings, when they were being asked these questions, they said they haven't seen any change. They're monitoring it because the media is hyping it. But so far, everything continues to run a plan, meaning specifically that while some people are losing their job, it doesn't appear to be impacting the effectiveness of CISA or information sharing there as well. Treasury is now designating Cambodia-based conglomerate Harrod Group as an institution of primary money laundering concern and has proposed severing its access to the U.S. financial system. FinCen issued the proposed rulemaking Thursday, stating that Harrod has helped launder funds from North Korean state-backed cybercrime operations and investment scams originating in Southeast Asia. They found that the group laundered at least $4 billion worth of illicit proceeds from August of 2021 to January of 2025. Of that, $37 million stemmed from North Korean cyber heist, $36 was taken through investment scams, and $300 million came from other fraud operation. This will sever Harrod's group's access to correspondent banks, degrading this group's ability to launder their ill-gotten gains, according to Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. Treasury remains committed to disrupting any attempt by malicious cyber actors to secure revenue from their criminal schemes. So going after the money there. Good first step. That's it for our show this morning. Wow, we got done record time. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast, go to cyberhubpodcast.com. You'll find all the latest there. Sorry, I haven't published articles in the last 2 weeks. I've been away. Obviously, we went dark last week for a few days and then the week before that for a few days. That story's forthcoming. There's still some stuff I got to figure out before I can share with you the whole reason why we were dark for so many days and why articles haven't dropped. But we're back and at it this Saturday. There will be a special article where we're back into the groove of things. So go make sure to subscribe, and you can get this podcast in written format, not a transcript, a short summarized written format with a good action to-do list at our website at cyberhubpodcast.com every single day, and then a weekly summary. That's it. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week, y'all. Happy Cinco de Mayo, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.